If there's one line in the Diamond Sutra that both amazes and confuses people, it is this: abide nowhere and let the mind arise. This is often translated as, let the mind arise without abiding anywhere. At first hearing, it sounds paradoxical. How can one let the mind arise, that is, to act, to think, to love, to live fully yet at the same time not abide anywhere? Isn't the human mind always clinging to some object? When in love, it clings to the beloved. When hating, it clings to the object of hatred. When working, it clings to results. If the mind abides nowhere, then on what does it rest? This paradox makes the phrase both mysterious and compelling, urging us to explore its deeper meaning. For if understood correctly, it opens a path of liberation from countless sufferings in daily life. But misunderstood, it may lead us into two dangerous extremes. Either passivity, living irresponsibly and indifferent to life for becoming cold and detached, losing all warmth of human connection. So what does abide nowhere? Let the mind arise truly teach us. Let's begin with a simple everyday example. Have you ever had the experience where you were completely immersed in an activity painting? Playing music, cooking, or simply walking in nature? So present that you forgot about results, comparisons, the past, or the future? In that moment, you felt light, free, and remarkably clear. That fleeting state is exactly a taste of letting the mind arise without abiding. But how can one sustain that state more often, more deeply? And why did the Buddha emphasize this as the key to inner freedom? To answer, we must carefully unfold each layer of its meaning and then verify it in both daily life and the path of spiritual practice. In the next part, we will clarify. What does abiding mean, and why is clinging the root of suffering? To understand abide nowhere, let the mind arise. We must first clarify the word abide. In Buddhist language, abide means to rely on, cling to, or fix the mind upon an object. For example, when we love money, the mind abides in wealth. When we crave fame, the mind abides in reputation. When we harbor hatred, the mind abides in resentment. The consequence is immediate. When the object is lost, we suffer. When gained, we worry about keeping it and still suffer. It's like drinking salt water. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. The Buddha pointed out that the root of suffering is attachment. The mind clings to something, believing it to be real, permanent, and the source of lasting happiness. Yet in the nature of impermanence, all things change. Thus, clinging inevitably leads to disappointment and pain. A story to illustrate. A young woman deeply loved her boyfriend. She believed this love would last forever, and that he was the sole source of her happiness. But when the relationship ended, she could not accept it. Day after day, she wept and tormented herself, repeating one thought: without him, I cannot live. An older friend advised her, look again. The pain does not come from the breakup itself, but from your clinging to the idea that love must last forever. It is that clinging that traps you. Gradually, as she realized that life is impermanent, and true happiness cannot depend entirely on another person, she learned to let go. She became stronger, more mature, and discovered peace within herself. This story shows suffering does not come from events themselves, but from attachment. We do not suffer because we lost love, a job, or an opportunity, but because the mind abides in the belief. It must always be this way. Thus, abide nowhere means not allowing the mind to be stuck on any object, whether love, wealth, fame, or any external form. The mind then becomes like a clear lake, reflecting everything, yet holding on to nothing. And when attachment falls away, let the mind arise, wisdom naturally shines forth. That wisdom sees through impermanence, allowing us to live more freely, love more deeply without bondage. and act more wisely without being driven by greed, anger, or delusion. We now see, abide nowhere is to release attachment, not letting the mind cling to anything. But the phrase doesn't end there. The Buddha adds, let the mind arise. That letting go means becoming heartless, without love or purpose. Yet in truth, it is the opposite. When we release attachment, love does not disappear, becomes purer and greater, unbound by conditions. When we are not fixated on results, we work more fully, more creatively, because the mind is free from anxiety about success or failure. A familiar example. In school, if you fear bad grades, you study anxiously, with poor focus and memory. But if you study for the joy of learning, unconcerned with grades, you learn faster and ironically, often score better. This illustrates acting without clinging. In business, too, if one clings desperately to profit, stress and sleeplessness follow, often eroding ethics and judgment, but with a clear, detached mind working wholeheartedly. Yet not imprisoned by obsession with gain or loss, decisions are wiser, and peace remains even in volatile markets. Thus, let the mind arise is not the mind of clinging, but the mind of wisdom, free, clear, and compassionate, emerging naturally when all attachments dissolve. In the next part, we will distinguish between letting go and giving up to things often confused, but in reality, worlds apart. This means when the mind is free from clinging, wisdom naturally arises. It is not emptiness or indifference, but a luminous clarity. One of the greatest misunderstandings of abide nowhere, let the mind arise, is equating letting go with giving up. Many think not clinging means not caring about anything, passively letting life drift. But the truth is quite different. Giving up comes from helplessness, despair, and irresponsibility. It often leads to indifference and decline. Letting go, however, is an act of wisdom. It is not rejecting life, nor avoiding responsibility. We still live fully, still act wholeheartedly, but without obsession or bondage. Actions flow from clarity and freedom. Imagine a mother. She clings tightly to the idea that my child must succeed exactly as I wish. She may burden her child with heavy pressure. But if she lets go of attachment, she still loves, teaches, and guides, but with understanding and respect. Her love becomes spacious and pure. Or think of rowing a boat. The one who gives up drops the oars, leaving the boat to crash into rocks and capsize. The one who lets go still rows, still steers, but without rigid insistence on this dock, not that one. With flexibility and ease, the journey is both safer and more joyful. Thus, giving up abandons responsibility, while letting go abandons attachment. One leads to stagnation, the other to wisdom and freedom. In the next part, we will address a key question. If we live without abiding, how should we relate to wealth, love, work, those things we cannot avoid in daily life? A common concern arises. If we do not abide anywhere, how do we live with real things? Money, love, work, family? The Buddha never taught us to deny or abandon life. Instead, he taught us to live fully within life, yet free inside. It can own possessions without being owned by them, can love without turning love into chains, can work without letting work enslave us. Picture holding a glass of water. Grip it too tightly. Your hand tires or the glass may break. Hold it gently. You still drink when thirsty and set it down any time. This is possessing without being possessed, in love. Parents love their children. But if they cling, trying to control every choice, love becomes a burden. With letting go, they still care and guide, but allow freedom. Love then becomes pure, nurturing happiness for both sides. At work, one may dedicate themselves fully. But if obsessed with promotion and recognition, expectation becomes pressure, and disappointment follows. If instead, one works with openness for joy, for collective good, then whether promoted or not, peace remains and inner growth continues. Clearly, not abiding is not abandoning the world, but engaging it with inner freedom. From that, wisdom arises, helping us discern when to hold and when to release, how to cherish without clinging, how to enjoy without addiction, how to love without bondage. In the next part, we will explore: how can we train the mind not to abide? What practical methods can help transform attachment into wisdom? At this point, many may ask, it sounds beautiful, but how do we actually train the mind to abide nowhere? What practical methods can we use in daily life? We must first understand not abiding is not reached overnight. It is a practice like exercise. One session won't build lasting strength. Patience and consistency are required. 3 simple yet powerful practices. Contemplate impermanence. See that everything changes. Flower blooms and fades, joy passes, sorrow also fades. Realizing impermanence weakens clinging, for nothing can truly be held forever. Example. When anger arises, remind yourself, this anger too is impermanent. It will pass. Such reminders soften attachment instantly. Practice mindfulness. Be present in each act. When washing dishes, just wash. When eating, just eat. When walking, just walk. Anchored in the present, the mind stops wandering to past or future, the roots of much attachment. Release in small steps. Each day, practice letting go of something. A petty argument, a harsh expectation, a comparison. With each act of release, lightness grows and wisdom surfaces more easily. A monk once said, "We cannot topple the whole castle of attachment at once, but we can start by removing one brick each day. Over time, the castle falls and freedom remains." Importantly, this practice does not disconnect us from life. It deepens life. Eating becomes more delicious, love more complete, work more joyful. That is abide nowhere. Let the mind arise alive in daily living. In the final part, we will summarize why this phrase is regarded as one of the greatest jewels of the Diamond Sutra. We have journeyed far to understand this brief, profound phrase. Abide nowhere, let the mind arise. From real-life stories, we see suffering does not lie in circumstances, but in the mind's clinging to them. When clinging to money, love, fame, we forge our own chains. But when we no longer abide, we still live, love, and work, yet with openness, freedom, and clarity. From this release, wisdom naturally arises, that is, let the mind arise. This wisdom does not come from books, nor from someone else's gift, but blossoms within as we lessen attachment and ego. To live this spirit, we need not renounce the world, nor seek anything far away. Just in each moment, pause, breathe deeply, see impermanence. Let go a little and we are already walking the path of abide nowhere. Let the mind arise. The Buddha taught this not to make us cold or irresponsible, but to help us live in the world without being enslaved by it, to love without bondage, to act wholeheartedly without fear of loss. Perhaps the greatest happiness is not in having much, but in being free within what we already have. And that freedom begins with gently loosening the grip of the mind.